Good evening, everybody. I'm not liking the way that looks. Yeah, it's a little bit better. So I'm going to be back here for the incense offering and all of that. Yeah, I'll tell the story. I'll tell you about the fish camp. Um, and then when I get ready to do the Dharma talk, I'll move closer. That way I can see if you're posting while I'm talking and that kind of thing. Be a little bit more conversational that way. So we'll begin with the verse of the Kesa. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Gata of Atonement. All harmful karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Incense offering. Three bows. The fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present with us now. The fragrance of this incense fills our room, protects and guards our minds from wrong thinking. The fragrance of this incense unites us with precepts, concentration, and insight. We offer it for all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I shall become one with the Buddha. I resolve that I shall each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I shall become one with the Dharma. The gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for guidance. I shall become one with the Sangha. In the spirit of universal fellowship, and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. So we're continuing through the Brahma Viharas. And if I remember correctly, we did Metta Bhavana the first week that I was talking about this, and we did Tonglen last week. Is that true? I hope that's true. Tonight we're going to work with Mudita, which is acknowledgement of our own and others' good fortune. It's really about contentment and gratitude. So, go ahead and get into your meditation posture. Take a few deep breaths. And let your breath settle into a comfortable rhythm. So for this one to start with, we'll start with ourselves. Kind of traditionally, you might start with a friend, but we'll start with ourselves. And think of a few ways that you experience some good fortune, some things you have to feel grateful for, some good things in your life. And just let these thoughts arise. And they don't have to be big things, but you live in a world where the Dharma is available. That's good fortune. Chances are you have enough to eat. That's good fortune. Shelter, all those things. So the traditional phrase that you would use for mudita is, may all beings keep their good fortune that is obtained by them. So that's kind of a mouthful. So what I think works better is we acknowledge that our good fortune is the result of some good karma. That's why it's obtained by us. To be born human is a result of good karma from a previous existence. To be in a place where you can hear the Dharma is the result of some good karma. You've done at least something to prepare your mind for being able to hear the teachings. So rather than thinking, may I keep my good fortune, because nothing is permanent, let's say, may I appreciate my good fortune and acknowledge that it's the result of my goodness. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Some people think of themselves as being good and they don't really buy into that idea. But we have some good fortune, or we wouldn't be here now listening to this meditation. May I appreciate and enjoy my good fortune. And now think of your loved one and some good fortune that they experience. Now, sometimes the people we think of are going through a tough time. But you know that tough times pass, good times return. And it's good fortune that they have a loved one like you who's concerned about them. So let yourself feel glad for their good fortune. May they enjoy and appreciate their good fortune. And now think about your friend. Sometimes people are friends because they're good people, or they've done us some favors and that got our attention, or they're just pleasant to be around, and being pleasant to be around is the result of some good actions from your past. And so think about the forms of good fortune that they're experiencing. Aware that this results from their past good actions. May they enjoy and appreciate their good fortune. And do the same thing with the neutral person. Now, they may be neutral because you don't know them very well. Don't like them, don't dislike them, may not know very much about them. But they're a human being, and that's good fortune. Only human beings can become enlightened. Sort of. May they appreciate their good fortune. So you know what comes next. Think about somebody that you're having difficulty with. And you might not want to think about them as being someone that's had good karma in the past. But in order to be here, in order for you to know them, They had to have done something good. Doesn't mean they're not undoing it as fast as they can. But if they're experiencing some good fortune, some good things happening to them, some good circumstances, that's the result of things that they've done. So wish them some enjoyment of that. So one nice thing is if people understand that their good fortune is the result of their good actions, if they understand karma, they're likely to become better people. If they were doing the kind of things that led to their good fortune, you'd probably like them better. They'd be easier to get along with. So maybe you can hope that they'll develop that awareness. And if not, well, wish them some enjoyment anyway. If they're doing a lot of bad karma now, they're going to lose all this. So we'll talk about that next week. May they enjoy their good fortune. And finally, all beings. If you're alive in this world, no matter what form you are, the fact that you're alive in this world means there's some goodness in you. And even if you're alive in one of the hell realms or something, all beings have Buddha nature. All beings have the possibility of awakening. So may all beings appreciate and enjoy their good fortune. And I'll ring the bell twice to end the meditation. All right, I'm going to get a little closer to you here for the Dharma talk. And that seemed to work better. So how's everybody doing? All right, so since Jeff's asked about the fish camp, I'll tell you the story about the fish camp first. We got rained out. So for those of you who don't know, I was supposed to be at a service, a regular like Unitarian church service last Sunday morning. So I had pre-recorded my Dharma talk so that I could go to this fish camp on the St. Johns River and participate in a service there. So Saturday night, I started getting emails saying that probably we were going to get rained out, and then finally, I don't know what time, probably 8 or 9 o'clock. It was just so certain that it was going to be storming that they scrapped the idea. So I actually had the morning off. I didn't set the alarm. I slept. I walked the dogs. I thought about going on and giving a live Dharma talk anyway, but I thought, well, I already recorded it. What would be the point? So anyway, there's no fish camp. Interesting stories, but maybe it'll get rescheduled and I'll tell you about it then. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is enlightenment. And, I'm doing this sort of working my way through the basics of Buddhism. And this question, some related questions have come up a few times in conversations on some of the Zoom calls and stuff like that about enlightenment and kind of what it is. And good to see you here, Pia. So I thought, well, we should talk about this enlightenment stuff. Yes, I'm doing good. So there's a couple of views of enlightenment. And I'm not going to get too deep into that part of this. But one idea is that enlightenment is when you become an arahant, which is when you completely transcended all fetters that bring you back to birth and death. And so when the Buddha's talking about that kind of enlightenment, that's something that can take many, many lifetimes, perhaps. And that comes about from not creating any comes about from processing any negative actions to the point where there's nothing left to attach to. And so there's nothing left to fuel the burning of existence. And I'll talk about that when I talk about the Fire Sutra in a couple of weeks. But that's not really what we're going for anymore, most of us. Some of you might be. Some of you might be Theravada Buddhists, and that's your objective, and that's fine. So what we really want to do is kind of practice enlightenment. So if we I've told you how Dogen, the founder of Soto Zen, said, if we're all Buddhists, if we have Buddha nature, why do we have to work so hard? And then he decided after some years of pondering this question that the work was the Buddha nature, right? And there's this idea that you see that samsara is nirvana, that there's no transcending this state because we don't have to transcend it because this is nirvana right here. Nirvana is already here, right? So so what is enlightenment then? There's descriptions of these experiences where somebody has a sudden realization and this sense of oneness with everything, the glimpsing the deathless, all that kind of stuff. Don't get hung up on those. I think the best way to approach enlightenment is to approach it as a way of life. Enlightenment is a way of life. It's a way of living. It's not something to be attained. It's something that we do. So when the Buddha talked about what it means to be enlightened, he spoke in terms of 7 very specific factors: mindfulness, keen investigation of the Dharma, effort, happiness, even joy, calm, concentration, and equanimity. So again, we think of enlightenment as something that sort of happens to us, the sky opens up, this bolt of, this shaft of light comes down, shines on us, we're awake, and, everything changes. But really, it's much more about a way we live. If we live an enlightened life, then we're experiencing enlightenment. And that's something everybody can do. You don't have to, meditate 8 hours a day in a cave or anything like that. You can if you want to. I mean, that's one way of getting there. But if you live an enlightened life, you're going to experience what it means to be enlightened. So the first factor of enlightenment is mindfulness. Mindfulness means being aware of what's going on in the present moment. People talk about it that way, but that doesn't mean it's enough to just be in the moment. You need to be aware of what you're doing mentally, verbally, and physically, and awaken to the impact and importance of your actions. Which is why it was perfect that we meditated on mudita tonight, because so much of that is understanding that our actions have an impact on the world and on our future, on the way our life is going to be in the future. So mindfulness isn't just meditating on your breath in a certain way or walking around being mindful all the time, right? It is to understand the role that you're playing in the world and the impact that your actions have on your life and the lives of others around you. And so if you think in terms of enlightenment as being sort of the light shining in the darkness, right? This would be the light, this realization that we don't have to continue to make ourselves and others unhappy. We can come out into the light. We can experience the light by retraining the mind. And so mindfulness is sort of a continuous practice of training the mind. So the second characteristic is keen investigation of the Dharma. So Dharma has different meanings. When you hear that word, when I use that word, it usually refers to the teachings of the Buddha, but it also sort of means phenomena. So by keen investigation of the Dharma, the Buddha meant really understanding reality as it is. So looking deeply into the nature of phenomena until we understand that the universe is constantly changing. All phenomena are subject to causes, conditions, and effects. So one of the first things that we do with keen investigation of the Dharma is to stop clinging to the way that we define ourself and the self of others and the goodness or badness of things and conditions. So this question came up a couple of times in a couple of different conversations about the idea of, is it okay to like stuff and dislike stuff? Is it okay to be happy? Buddhism is, everything is suffering. And if you attach to things, you're going to suffer. And so, attachment, to something pleasant is going to give us some pleasant feelings, right? To understand, though, that our likes and dislikes come from here, not from out there. In other words, it's on our side. I was reading this Dharma talk once by one of the Thai masters. I think it was Ajahn Chah, probably, because he was really good at explaining things this way to Westerners in a way that brought them down to earth. And he was talking about somebody had given him a thermos bottle. So this was an old Dharma talk, probably from the 70s or something. And so somebody had given him a thermos bottle, which he was kind of fascinated with. A thermos bottle. I mean, I don't know, do they even have thermos bottles anymore? I'm not real sure. They're insulated, so you put something hot in there, it stays hot. Put something cold in there, it stays cold. And somebody thought he would like to have this, and so they gave it to him, and he probably did like it, keep his tea hot and stuff like that. Anyway, he held up this thermos bottle, and he was talking about this thermos bottle. And he said, if you like it or you don't like it, it doesn't affect the bottle at all. It still does what it's set out to, what it's designed to do. And he said, the judging is all on us. Doesn't it change? You could hate the thermos bottle. It's not going to change it one bit. And you could love it. It's not going to change it one bit. The judging is all something that we do. So he said, if we like it, it doesn't react. liking is all on our side. If we hate it and throw it out in the woods, it still doesn't react. It doesn't respond to us. We like it or dislike it based on our own attachment. And so when we understand that, then we are free to enjoy things. We're free to like the fact that a thermos bottle keeps our iced tea iced, right? Although I guess these days you wouldn't use a thermos bottle. You'd use one of those fancy insulated drinking cups or whatever. But if we're deciding to judge something as good or bad or indifferent, we're engaging in a process that often is not really worth doing. In fact, I'd say usually it's not really worth doing. If you enjoy something, enjoy it. Great. You don't have to judge it. It's good because you enjoy it. People get hung up on this idea of non-attachment, thinking that it means indifference. But it really means to not judge. So why would anything, a person, an inanimate object, a condition, need to be judged? Like that Ajahn Chah's thermos bottle, it's not going to react one way or the other to our judgment of it. So part of the process of enlightenment means to understand this. Things are just the way they are. We can love them, we can hate them, but if we get disturbed about them, it's our doing. It's the same with our bodies and our minds and our moods and so on. We should see these as impermanent, as not self, as stressful, and that's it. And so we drop the judgments because they're just not worth doing. So sometimes people will see this and go, wow, Buddhism is really negative, but it's not. You look at the orchids behind me. We know those orchids are only going to look like that fairly briefly. These have actually lasted like 4 weeks or something like that already. So I thought they were impermanent, but no, they've started dropping a few flowers here and there. Flowers tend to bloom fairly briefly and then they start to wilt. It's inconstant. No amount of ordering it to do otherwise is going to change that. So I can buy flowers, but they're not really my flowers. I can't make them not decay. They're going to become compost sooner or later, no matter what I think. If I expect them to be otherwise, then I'll get stressed about it. But if I can just accept them the way they are, then I can appreciate their beauty when they're fresh, and I can appreciate their value as fertilizer for the next season's flowers when they decay. So there's a saying in Zen, when you're enlightened, the trees and rocks are enlightened too. And so there's sort of more of finding the light in the darkness. There's stress and inconstancy and all of that, but there's beauty too because of stress and inconstancy. If nothing changed, we wouldn't notice that something was special, right? I told this story about the orchids that bloom in the median. Did I tell that Sunday? I don't remember. Sometime recently. And, most people don't even see them, but when you do, they're really beautiful. But if you just took it on its own, it would really be no big deal. It's just a little sort of rust-colored flower. But when you get a whole bunch of them coming up at once and they're only going to be there for about a week, that's really a special moment. That inspires awe if you know what you're looking at, right? So if the days didn't get shorter as the earth moved around the sun, then they wouldn't get longer, right? If a growing season didn't end, then there'd be no compost to nurture the next one. If there was no ugliness, there would be no beauty. And so that's kind of that's when we understand the Dharma this way, when we understand this as something that affects the way we live our life and the way we engage with our reality, then that's an aspect, that's the second factor of enlightenment. So the third factor, energy, effort, refers to putting our effort toward freedom. So the Buddha revealed his path. His example can serve as an object of faith, as a refuge. Be islands unto yourselves, be your own refuge, he said. It's up to us to travel the path. So enlightenment includes the ongoing effort of transcending harmful thoughts that have arisen, to prevent the arising of harmful thoughts, to develop thoughts that are good and helpful, and to promote the growth of good that already exists in our minds and in our environments. We want to encourage good things in our lives. And sometimes those things lie outside us. We just got to recognize that what we really have some ownership of is what we do. So we not only have to be mindful and understand what's going on, but we have to be diligent if we're going to be enlightened. If you think about the moment when the Buddha sat down beneath the Bodhi tree, what did he think? He said, my blood may dry up, my bones may crumble to dust, but I won't rest until I've awakened. That's a pretty strong statement of determination. This is what I'm going to do, right? So we do two things. We abandon the ways we create difficulties for ourselves. We cultivate happiness for ourselves, and we make a firm commitment to doing that. Now, you would think that would be a real easy thing. Well, of course, I'm going to do the things that make me happy and not do the things that lead to suffering. But think about how you've lived your life so far, right? Think about the people around you and how they live their lives. We do a lot of things like judging others and deciding that things are bad or whatever that really lead to suffering for ourselves and other people. So, that's an example of how we often don't do this. So the fourth factor of enlightenment is happiness. It's actually, the Pali word is more like bliss or joy. So again, we tend to think of happiness as something that happens to us or arises out of getting what we want. I should have brought a glass of water in here with me. But it's really something that we have to do. We cultivate it by learning to recognize the difference between pleasure, pleasant feelings that arise and pass, and happiness, which is a little bit more aligned with living on purpose, living in a way that leads to that's connected to greater meaning in our lives, those kinds of things. Those things bring us longer term happiness than focusing on things that bring us short term pleasure. Pleasant feelings are momentary and they're fleeting. You should enjoy the moment, but don't let your happiness depend on those kinds of things. So you kind of learn to distinguish the difference between pleasure and happiness. And if you're happy, you'll have a preponderance of pleasant emotion. You'll feel better more often than you feel bad. But you also have the resilience to be able to deal with difficult times without letting that drain away your happiness. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense. The fifth and sixth factor of enlightenment are calm and concentration. Now, those are very closely related. We experience those a lot in meditation. Calmness really comes from having an orderly mind, and concentration lets you maintain calm even when the world around you is chaotic. So to concentrate means you steady your mind. If you're calm, it's easier to concentrate. If you're concentrating, it's easier to be calm. So if you can learn to kind of calm your mind down a little bit and focus a little bit more, then your concentration deepens. As your concentration deepens, you become calmer. That's a big part of the practice, getting, again, with the effort and wisdom and understanding, you can make your mind more orderly in a way that it's less likely to fly into chaos when something unpleasant happens, right? Now, look, this doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. You're going to walk around being enlightened all the time. Well, you will, but enlightenment, I think, as I see it, carries with it the fact that you're a human being. And human beings are going to backslide a little bit sometimes. And sometimes your mind is not going to be real calm. I know some people right now, some people that I work with and stuff like that, who, meditate regularly, and they're generally pretty
together people and all of that, and they still are. But when they in a private conversation, they'll say, "My meditation is crap right now. I can't calm my mind down, and I feel like I'm stressed all the time." Well, of course, because this is a difficult period that we're going through, and especially if you're in certain kinds of jobs where there's times of the year that are more stressful than others, and now everything is different than even you're used to, and all of that, you're going to feel some level of chaos. But if you're practicing this way, then you'll be able to bring that back, and you'll have the resilience to get through times like this, and even to learn to adapt and adjust quicker, because you know how to train your mind so that you can steer it more carefully. It's kind of like if you're a real good driver, an interstate highway is no big deal for pretty much anybody. Anybody can go a straight line for a long period of time. But, if you're a real good driver, then you can do the hairpin turns over in the Rolex 500 or whatever it is, the Rolex 24 course at the Speedway, which goes, right? It just requires a little bit more effort. And then you get on the straightaway and you can relax and go a little faster. I think. I don't know. I'm not really into racing, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you're going to hit a bad patch of road, and you're going to have to adapt to that. And if you know how to keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road, you'll manage that okay, right? So anyway, the seventh and final factor is equanimity, which is what I was just talking about. This is being able to encounter the changes and difficulties of life without completely losing your balance. The mind, you ever have a gyroscope when you were a kid, right? Do those things still exist? You get these things, and basically it was like a top, and it was a little gyroscope, like spherical thing with a thing inside that spun around, and you could spin it, and you could balance it on your hand, and you could move it all around. And I'd like to get one of those. It would be great to have one in a Dharma talk, right? And so now, they were designed as navigation aids to help keep ships, on course, even when the waves were buffeting them around. So equanimity is kind of like that. It gives you this opportunity to keep your balance no matter what happens to the foundation that you're standing on. It doesn't mean indifference. It does require acceptance. So it requires you to understand karma and how it comes into play. And if you understand cause and effect, then you see reality the way it is, then all the shoulds and shouldn'ts that normally disturb us begin to fall away, because we can accept things as they are instead of requiring them to be as we think they should. And so when you have an awakening, whether it's a total one or just an aha moment, when the Dharma suddenly lights up the darkness a little bit for you, what do? So there's a story I've told a bunch of times, I'm sure, about this monk who's on the brink of realization. And his master recognizes this and sees that the monk is having trouble, but that he's right on the verge of having a breakthrough. And so the monastery happens to be at the base of a mountain. And the master says, I need you to go to the top of the mountain, and I want you to sit there and meditate until you're enlightened. And so the monk took a few requisites, packed them up, started up the path to the top of the mountain. Well, about halfway up, he meets someone coming down the other side. It's a very steep, very narrow trail up this mountain. And so they kind of try to jockey around each other, and they decide this is a good time to sit down and rest. So the other person was like a woodsman, and he was carrying a bundle of sticks on his shoulder. And so, he just sets the sticks down, and they sit there and talk for a while, rest and drink some water or whatever they did. And it turns out this old man was a fully enlightened bodhisattva who was there really to help this monk. He, through his bodhisattva powers, he recognized this monk would need his help. And so he shows up on the path. Anyway, so they sit and rest for a little while, and then they get up to go on their way. And the monk says, and they had talked, and the guide said, where are you going? The monk said, well, my master says I need to go to the top of the mountain, get enlightened, that I'll get enlightened there. So they get up to head their separate ways. And the monk says to the guy, says, by the way, what do you think of this enlightenment thing anyway? Well, the woodsman takes his bundle of sticks off his shoulders and just drops them. And they scatter on the trail. And they just kind of stand there for a minute looking at each other. The monk has had this awakening, and he suddenly realizes what he needs to do. And he's awakened at that moment, seeing those sticks scatter. And so they just kind of sit in the moment for a minute. Sit in the moment for a minute. And the monk says, what do I do now? And the old woodsman gathers up his sticks, puts them on his shoulder, and continues down the trail toward the village. So, once you realize that you have this innate Buddha nature and you put it to work by, living this way, living an enlightened life, you go about your business, you go about your life, right? So, and exercising this freedom moment by moment, choice by choice, to cause less difficulty for ourselves and others. So when you've awakened to that, well, you're like the old guy on the path. You just keep going. So anyway, I hope that this has been helpful for those of you who have been struggling with this idea of enlightenment. Don't go chasing after a certain experience. And this is true whether you're meditating or whether you're, doing the rest of your continuous practice in day-to-day life. Live your life, right? Live an enlightened life. Don't look for a special experience. And then everything is a special experience. Okay. All right. So anyway, thank you for your time. When might they start services again in MIMS? So this is not a matter of me having insight. This is a matter of me having communication with the board of the White Sands Buddhist Center. And the plan is to start having services again in October. Okay, so first Sunday in October, I plan to be back, unless something changes. Okay, because we could have a huge spike in COVID cases or something like that, and then I won't feel comfortable with that. But that's the plan for now. So, and hopefully things will continue, and that'll happen. So as we get closer, some of you have offered to help manage live streaming services and Dharma talks from White Sands. So we'll talk about that when we get a little closer, because I do want these to be broadcast so that people who aren't comfortable yet going to services, can still hear the Dharma talks and still enjoy the services. One other thing before the dedication of merit. Sensei Michelle and I are in the process of kind of decluttering, downsizing, cleaning up. And we got a lot of books about Buddhism. A lot of people have given me books about Buddhism. I bought some, but mostly they were given to me by other people. So, and we have dozens. So here's the thing. If you would like a book about Buddhism, go to the Volusia Buddhist Fellowship website and make a donation of anything over, what's it cost to ship a book? Like $3? Okay. I want to give you the book. I don't want to have to pay to ship it to you. If you make a donation for enough to cover shipping, I'll send you a book. I'm not going to promise what, because I don't have a list of them, but I know who you are. If you put in the notes where you want it sent to, rough idea, maybe what kind of thing you're interested in, I'll try to match the book to your needs. You get one you've already read or don't like, you can give it away and I'll send you another one. Right? How's that for a plan? So, there's probably some stuff that's actually pretty good, fairly valuable, that I'm going to give to the bookstore at White Sands. Some things that are like book and CD sets and stuff like that. So, and I'm not going to tell them what to charge for them. I'm just going to give them to them. So those will be there anyway. So you're welcome very much. So let's do the dedication. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now. In offering flowers, candles, and incense, hearing the Dharma and training the mind, great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to the 16 guardians and all protectors of the Dharma and their relations throughout space and time, to all ancestors of this Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May penetrating light dispel the darkness of ignorance. Let all karma be resolved and the mind flower bloom in eternal spring. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. May their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for those suffering from violence and those who grieve for them, for those living in oppression, for those who are imprisoned who should be free, for all refugees from violence, hunger, and catastrophe, man-made or natural. We pray for the health and well-being of those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, those ministering to those afflictions. We pray for those suffering from COVID-19, those working to protect and treat them, and to those grieving for those lost to this pandemic. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabe sata sadahantu avera sukajivino katang punya phalang maihang sabe bagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings that spring from the good we have done. So thank you all for being here, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow if you come to the Zoom meetings or Sunday. All right, take care.